1 in 10 of us fear clowns. The makeup they wear conceals and distorts their facial expressions, leaving many of us distrusting the colorful figures. There's something almost ironic about it all. A person whose objective is purely to make others happy and filled with joy. Yet such a high number of us feel the exact opposite whenever we see them. Today, we are looking into coulrophobia and clowns as a whole, in the media, in the real world, and inside the human mind.
I'm Krusty the Clown, and I'm going to kill you.
6 more bodies unearthed from the basement crawl space of Gacy's Norwood Park Township home today, bringing to 15 the number found there since Friday.
Hit it! Hit that bitch! Hit that!
Whilst many criminals and murderers have worn masks to hide their identity, sometimes the perfect disguise is less conventional. Occasionally, thinking outside the box can lead to better results. Francisco Rafael Arellano Félix was a drug lord from Mexico and the former head of the Tijuana cartel, an illicit drug trafficking group. As the eldest among 7 brothers, he played a prominent role in leading the criminal organization in the early 1990s. He and his cartel went on to commit many crimes over the years, from shootouts, drug trafficking, and assassinations, the whole 9 yards as far as the cartel goes. But his legacy was truly cemented at his 64th birthday party. On the 18th of October 2013, the event took place at the Beachfront Banquet Hall, owned by Hotel Marbella in Los Cabos, Baja California Sur. Approximately 80 to 100 guests attended the party, including influential businessmen, politicians, celebrities, and sports figures like former Mexican footballer Jared Borghetti and professional boxer Omar Chavez. The festivities featured performances by various musical groups, including Banda La Cabeña, El Mariachi de Los Cabos, and the former lead vocalist of Banda El Recodo. At approximately 8 p.m. that night, a black SUV entered the private property and parked near the entrance of the ballroom at Hotel Marbella in Los Cabos. According to eyewitnesses, 2 men were in the front seats, while a man dressed as a clown occupied the back seat. The clown disembarked and headed towards the door leading to the kitchen. Upon entering the ballroom, the clown identified Francisco Rafael at the center of the room and approached him. When the clown was about 1 meter away, he drew a pistol from his costume and shot him directly in the head, firing several more times as he fell to the ground. This point-blank attack resulted in Francisco Rafael's immediate death at the scene. Shockingly, this event was caught on camera. The clown that walks past the singer is Francisco's murderer. After the former drug lord was found dead near the entrance, the assailant swiftly escaped through a rear exit, causing panic among the attendees. People shouted, fell to the ground, and sought refuge under the tables. Shortly after the initial attack, 4 more shots were heard outside the ballroom. Eyewitnesses claimed that the clown fired these shots to intimidate one of Francisco Rafael's sons who was pursuing him. The suspect then fled the crime scene in the black SUV heading towards the highway. When the authorities questioned those who remained at the scene and inquired if they could identify the assassin or provide any physical details, none of them could offer any specifics. Some mentioned they hadn't paid attention to the clown when he entered, while others couldn't recall the details of his attire, remembering only that he wore a blue-striped or purple shirt, a multicolored wig, and a red clown nose. The alleged mastermind of the murder was possibly Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, who had the alias El Chino Antrax and was the leader of Los Antrax, an armed squadron of the Sinaloa cartel. This photo of him in a clown costume laughing really doesn't help his case. But he was never prosecuted for this crime and is no longer alive, so we're just left to speculate who this killer clown was. But cases like this are incredibly rare, and it is doubtful that coulrophobia stemmed from a real fear that someone dressed like a clown would come and murder you. So what is coulrophobia, and how did it come to affect 1 in 10 of us? Coulrophobia is the term used to describe an extreme and irrational fear of clowns. People with coulrophobia may experience anxiety, panic attacks, or intense discomfort when they are in the presence of a clown, or even when they see images or representations of clowns. The fear is not always related to a specific traumatic event, but can be a result of the exaggerated and sometimes unsettling appearance of clowns, combined with cultural associations or media portrayals that depict them as creepy or menacing figures. From my research, it seems the media has had a bigger impact than anything else. Most phobias are based on real dangers that have been irrationally heightened by the mind, such as spiders, heights, the deep sea, sharks, and other things that present a real immediate danger to our lives. Whilst clowns are a man-made creation, although a creation that has been around for years in many different forms, but it does seem that this is a relatively new phobia in the scheme of things. A phobia that has been greatly exacerbated by the portrayal of clowns in the media. One of the greatest examples of this is from none other than the king of horror, Stephen King.
Tasty, tasty, beautiful fear.
Stephen King's book It and its film adaptations, especially the 1990 miniseries and the more recent films released in 2017 and 2019, have been associated with influencing and reinforcing coulrophobia on a broader scale. The character Pennywise, a malevolent clown, is central to the horror story and has contributed to the popular perception of clowns as frightening figures. The portrayal of Pennywise as a sinister and predatory entity preying on children in the fictional town of Derry, Maine, has left a lasting impact on how clowns are perceived in popular culture. The eerie and sinister depiction of Pennywise, along with the widespread popularity of the book and films, may have contributed to the increase and even the development of coulrophobia in some individuals. While it's challenging to quantify the direct impact on worldwide coulrophobia, the cultural resonance of it has undoubtedly played a role in perpetuating the fear of clowns, adding a layer of unease to the perception of these traditionally jovial and entertaining characters. Whilst Pennywise is undoubtedly the most iconic clown in horror, there is another clown who has been much more influential to the world and criminals as a whole.
You wanna know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker.
The portrayal of the Joker in various Batman comics, films, and television adaptations has had a notable impact on the perception of clowns and may have contributed to coulrophobia for some individuals. The Joker is often depicted as a psychotic and unpredictable character, and his appearance, with exaggerated makeup and a sinister smile, deviates from the typical friendly image associated with clowns. The Joker's dark and criminal nature, coupled with his chaotic acts, has influenced how clowns are perceived in popular culture. While it's challenging to quantify the direct impact he's had on worldwide coulrophobia, the character has certainly played a role in shaping public perception and, in some cases, intensifying fears associated with clowns. The strangest part of the Joker is how idolized he appears to be and the real-world impact he has had. Additionally, there have been instances where individuals with criminal intent have adopted the imagery or persona of the Joker in real-life crimes. These instances, while relatively rare, have garnered mainstream media attention and may contribute to the association of clowns with criminal behavior. The most famous example of this was James Holmes.
The James Holmes we're seeing now is a universe away from the clean-cut, up-and-coming neuroscientist he once was.
That there were parts of the movie where there was shooting, there was explosions, and all of a sudden The shooting started for real.
James Holmes, the shooter at the Aurora, Colorado theater. On July 20th, 2012, Holmes entered a midnight screening of The Dark Knight Rises dressed in tactical clothing. He deployed tear gas canisters and opened fire randomly in the crowded theater, resulting in the death of 12 people and injuries to 70 others. Federal agents reported that Holmes, with red-dyed hair, identified himself as the Joker during the attack. Following his capture, Holmes revealed to agents that he had placed explosive devices in his apartment, prompting a large-scale evacuation of not only his residence but also the surrounding buildings. After much deliberation on whether his mental health played a role in the attack, Holmes's trial commenced 3 years later. On July 16, 2015, a jury found him guilty on 24 counts of first-degree murder, 140 counts of attempted first-degree murder, and 1 count of possessing illegal explosives. The court sentenced Holmes to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Another Joker-inspired criminal was a 14-year-old girl from England. She inflicted a Joker-style smile on herself by cutting her own mouth, and then enticed a friend to a secluded area of their Hampshire school, where she proceeded to stab the friend in the chest. Upon her arrest, the girl expressed indifference to whether people attributed her actions to the Joker or Columbine, stating that neither inspired her but rather motivated her. Earlier that day, she messaged another friend stating, "If the plan does fail, I will say the voices in my head made me do it." Prosecutors contended that the girl had an obsession with serial killers and the Dark Knight. The defendant ultimately pleaded guilty to charges of unlawful wounding and possession of a bladed article on school premises. And quite recently, an individual known as the Nottingham Joker has been jailed for attacking a man with a bowling ball. The Nottingham Joker, also known as Damien Hammond, has been convicted of 110 offenses, but his most notorious act was dropping a bowling ball wrapped up in jeans on a council worker's head, who was collecting a television Hammond had left out the front of his apartment. This led to a 2-hour standoff with the police, which he threatened to kill anyone who approached him. Eventually, he set himself on fire and jumped out the window before pleading guilty. Although these Joker-inspired criminals are incredibly alarming, this video wouldn't be complete without mentioning the most famous killer clown of all time, John Wayne Gacy.
Gacy is a 36-year-old building contractor who reportedly dressed like a clown. Gacy's home has become a tourist attraction. Every day for a week, outsiders came here to see bodies brought out of Gacy's house.
The man, convicted of more murders than any serial killer in American history, has been executed after 14 years in prison. John Wayne Gacy
killed 33 young men and boys and buried them in his crawl space.
Kill that clown! Kill that clown! Kill that clown!
Death penalty demonstrators at the prison who favored the execution far outnumbered the candle-carrying death penalty opponent.
John Wayne Gacy, born on March 17, 1942, was an American serial killer and sex offender who achieved notoriety for his gruesome crimes. Beyond his criminal activities, Gacy also had a disturbing alter ego. He performed at children's parties and charitable events as Pogo the Clown. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy targeted and murdered at least 33 young men and boys, primarily teenagers. He often lured his victims with promises of employment in his construction business or financial incentives. Gacy would then invite them to his home in Chicago under various pretexts. Exploiting his community standing, Gacy presented himself as an entertainer, frequently appearing as Pogo the Clown at social gatherings. However, beneath this clownish exterior lurked a predator who subjected his victims to sexual assault, torture, and eventual murder. Many of the victims were buried in the crawlspace beneath Gacy's house. Gacy's crimes were brought to light in December 1978 when he was arrested in connection with the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Peast. Subsequent investigations revealed the horrifying extent of his killings. In 1980, Gacy was convicted on multiple counts of murder and sexual assault. Executed by lethal injection in 1994 at the Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill, Illinois, John Wayne Gacy's case remains infamous in American criminal history. His dual identity as both a clown and a cold-blooded killer adds a chilling layer to the disturbing narrative of his crimes. This case is incredibly detailed and documented, Hundreds of documentaries and books have come out from this story, and I'm sure a lot of you here already know most of it. But it felt important to cover it, even if only briefly due to its relevance. John Wayne Gacy's crimes, particularly his use of a clown persona, have contributed to the popular perception of clowns as frightening figures, and may have had an impact on coulrophobia, the fear of clowns, on a broader scale. Gacy's alter ego as Pogo the Clown was a chilling contrast to the typical joyful and entertaining image associated with clowns. The revelation that a man who entertained children as a clown was also a prolific and sadistic serial killer created a lasting impression in popular culture. Gacy's case, where a seemingly harmless and jovial character concealed a dark and malevolent nature, may have intensified negative perceptions of clowns and fueled fears associated with them. While it's challenging to measure the direct impact on worldwide coulrophobia, Gacy's crimes and the subsequent media coverage have undoubtedly contributed to the association of clowns with fear and mistrust. The archetype of the killer clown has since become a recurring theme in horror fiction and popular culture, further embedding the connection between clowns and fear in the collective consciousness. But there is yet another, potentially dangerous, real-life clown that I doubt many of you have heard of. The story of Klutzo the Clown is as complex as it is twisted, shrouded in mystery and uncertainty. There's a lot of layers at play. Amon Carlock worked as a Springfield police officer, an officer for the Grandview Police Department, and as a trainer and counselor with the State Department of Corrections, before he volunteered with Big Brothers Big Sisters, a non-profit organization, as a children's entertainer under the alias Klutzo the Clown. Accused of possessing
YouTube guideline violation
and traveling abroad to engage in child
YouTube guideline
Carlock faced some of the most serious charges a man can face. However, he passed away 39 days after being booked into the county lockup, still awaiting trial. As he died before the legal proceedings concluded, he remained legally innocent in the eyes of the law despite the serious accusations against him. Prior to his arrest, he had never been in trouble with the law. After Klutzo the Clown was put to rest, Amon's wife, Mary Andriata Carlock, began a legal battle against the county on behalf of her husband. The case against the county involves two main allegations. Firstly, that Carlock did not receive adequate medical care as he was a diabetic and required special treatment. And secondly, that the use of excessive force by jailers further jeopardized an already unwell individual, ultimately leading to his death. Upon reaching the jail, the staff failed to assess Carlock's blood sugar levels, and he did not promptly receive the medication prescribed to him on the first day. The jail health staff also cut off a prescription for a fast-acting form of insulin, although the jail was supposed to provide other forms of insulin and regularly check Carlock's blood sugar levels. The events surrounding Carlock's situation are under dispute, but at least one evident health issue was apparent. He lost almost 30 pounds during his time in the jail, averaging nearly 1 pound lost per day. This is a dramatic and dangerous drop which would have alarmed any reasonably competent physician, wrote physician Dr. Mark Stern. The county claims that on his final day alive, Carlock was instructed to wear a shirt and resisted to the extent that multiple guards had to intervene to control him. He kicked a guard in the groin, threatened one with a fist, and exhibited disruptive behavior, yelling and screaming while moving energetically within his cell, as mentioned in court documents filed by county attorneys. Despite attempts to use a restraint chair, Carlock ended up on the ground, soiling himself. Even a taser jolt to Carlock's thigh was ineffective. Ultimately, Kevin Furlong, a guard, had to lie across Carlock's shoulders. A few seconds later, he stopped struggling, and after a few minutes, he stopped breathing. The law governing excessive force claims was clearly established on November 16, 2007, that compressing the lungs of an obviously vulnerable person might kill him, the judge wrote. The county says that jailers did nothing wrong, but even if they did, Carlock brought it on himself. The county ended up settling outside of court for $2.575 million on top of the $2.5 million they had already spent defending the case. The county has long insisted that the sheriff's employees did nothing wrong, and Sheriff Neil Williamson maintained that stance after the committee meeting. "We maintain that we did nothing wrong," Williamson said. We always thought we would prevail. Then why settle? A trial, Williamson said, would only add to the cost, and it is impossible to accurately predict an outcome if the county had pressed on. It's a cost-effective thing, the sheriff said. Whilst Amon Paul Carlock is accused of some of the worst acts ever imaginable, it is frustrating that he won't ever get put on trial. While the evidence was mounting and hard to deny, he died a legally innocent man in the eyes of the law due to what appeared to be avoidable mistreatment in jail. There's even more to this case: the accused's mental health, the drugs he was taking, and the details given by both immigration and federal agents. But I tried to summarize it all as quickly as possible because no matter how much you dig into it, there is no concrete answer, and the theories online get out of hand very quickly. It's probably obvious from my content so far, but I hate telling people what to think or trying to persuade them of a certain narrative. I'm always just trying to present what is factual and what professionals and those related to the matters have said. But I digress. Before we look at the final chapter, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. It makes a monumental difference to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.
Creepy clowns. It's a phenomenon sweeping the country right now with thousands of alleged sightings.
She was chased by someone in a clown costume, something being reported in several cities across the country right now.
Hey, you the clown that was scaring the kids back there?
Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. What are you gonna do about it?
It's a creepy-looking clown, and no one is laughing. The scary pictures have been showing up from coast to coast.
I'm just freaking out because I'm going all over Instagram, and all I see is, oh, clowns, 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 you know? How does something like this go worldwide?
In 2016, there was an insane social phenomenon that maybe some of you remember, characterized by a surge in reported sightings of individuals dressed as menacing clowns across various locations. These clown sightings, often fueled by social media, led to heightened public fear and anxiety. While many incidents were harmless pranks, some involved criminal activity and raised concerns about public safety. The trend had a significant impact on the public perception of clowns. Whilst there were no widely reported incidents of deaths directly resulting from the clown sightings or pranks, some incidents did involve criminal behavior such as threats, assaults, or harassment. The trend led to increased police responses, arrests, and public concern over the potential dangers associated with people dressing as menacing clowns. While the majority of the incidents were hoaxes or pranks, the phenomenon underscored the potential for public panic and the need for law enforcement to address any criminal activity or disturbances caused by individuals participating in the clown craze. It's important to note that the nature of these incidents varied widely, with most involving mischief rather than serious harm. The trend gained momentum in late summer and early fall of 2016, when there were numerous reported sightings of individuals dressed as creepy or menacing clowns in various locations across the United States, the United Kingdom, and other parts of the world. The widespread coverage of these incidents in the media, both traditional and social, contributed to the rapid spread of the trend. Many of these sightings were likely inspired by similar incidents reported in previous years, creating a collective and contagious phenomenon that captured public attention. It even got to the point where social media platforms including YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter took steps to moderate and remove content related to the killer clown craze that violated their policies on harassment or posed a risk to public safety. But even stranger than all of this is that this isn't the first time this happened. In 1981, clowns began to appear all around Boston in a very similar manner to the 2016 killer clown craze. A cryptozoologist named Lauren Coleman spoke on the 1981 phenomenon. If unaware, a cryptozoologist is someone who studies cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is a field often considered a pseudoscience and subculture that explores and examines creatures that are unknown, legendary, or believed to be extinct. The current existence of these animals is often debated or unverified, especially those rooted in folklore like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Yeti, or the Chupacabra, and they commonly use the term cryptids to refer to these elusive creatures, a term coined within the subculture. On May 6, 1981, A report reached the police stating that 1 or 2 individuals in clown outfits were driving a van filled with candy near Brookline's Longwood School. The following day, a similar incident was reported at the Franklin Park Horseshoe Playing Grounds, with a man wearing only half a clown suit and being naked from the waist down. In response, the school district's investigative counselor issued a memo advising students to steer clear of strangers, especially those dressed as clowns. During this time, Lauren Coleman, heading a social services office in Charlestown, Massachusetts, and engaging with a network of nearly 400 fellow cryptozoology enthusiasts, coined the term phantom clown. He requested newspaper clippings from his network related to similar incidents and observed a nationwide phenomenon emerging. Phantom clowns, as Coleman outlined, were characterized by specific patterns. A clown often seen in a van, children being approached, reports to adults, and the clowns never being apprehended. This theory resonated when similar incidents occurred in the Carolinas. The origin of phantom clowns, as determined by Boston authorities in 1981, was attributed to the minds of children. In other words, they didn't exist. A subsequent article challenged the initial portrayal of perpetrators, recasting them as victims. Law enforcement expressed confusion and noted that no adult civilian or police officer had actually witnessed a clown, despite numerous 911 calls. A similar conclusion was drawn in a 1991 Chicago incident involving a van clown named Homie. The fear of phantom clowns, while dismissed by some, may be rooted in community memory. 50 years prior in North Carolina, an actual criminal known as the Paddler, dressed as a policeman, kidnapped young boys and subjected them to a spanking with a paddle before letting them go. Despite his capture, he resumed criminal activities after serving jail time and ended up killing 2 teenagers. Lauren Coleman suggests that this genuine concern leads to warnings, media reports, and ultimately more sightings of clowns, creating a cycle of fear and attention. And this cycle was repeated a decade later in 1991, and then again almost a decade ago in 2016. So when will the next killer craze begin? We're due for one pretty soon if history has taught us anything. Personally, I kind of like clowns. Their red noses look like they'd be squishy. But until next time, check out my band.